You can heckle me if you sit in the front row with no consequences. Awesome. Well, thank you all again for being here today. Let's give it up for that first panel. That was such an informative conversation. So we are going to have a conversation today with a couple of, or three, really amazing music managers. My name is Jessica Toon. I'm the Executive Director of the Recording Academy's Pacific Northwest chapter. I am also a Seattle Music Commissioner and Vice Chair of the Music Commission this year. So I'm excited to kick off this conversation. We do want to make this format available for you all to get your questions answered. So I'm going to kick us off with just a couple of questions that were submitted by some attendees. And then we'll ask you all. Today is really for you to get your burning questions answered by these managers. So we're going to put them on the spot and see what they've got to say. So first, can you heckle this guy, please?
Sorry, that was disrespectful.
Well, why don't you go first and introduce yourself, Mark?
My name is Mark Cunningham. I work for Redlight Management. We are a very large management company with offices all over the country, including in Lower Queen Anne, Belltown area. So I'm local, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks for being here.
I'm Michel Fleischli. I'm a small management company. I'm the owner and operator. Thank you. It's called, I'm sorry, yeah, that'd be good. Like Management, L-I-K-E.
My name is DeVon Manier, and I operate and own Sportn Life Music Group, another small agency. My office is at home. Yeah.
And maybe could you give us a couple of artists that you all work with or represent for some context for the folks here?
Sure.
Yeah, I currently manage the Black Tones, Seattle-based rock band. I also work with a shoegaze band called The Velt out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Those would probably be the two that you may have heard of, and I do some consulting as well for a number of people.
I manage Tenacious D. I manage Karen O.
Never heard of
I manage Hermanos Gutierrez, the Black Lips, Sesame. I have a lot of it. I can't a lot more. Michael Cronin. I feel like I'm missing some very obvious others. But yeah, it's like, I mean, there's 6 of us on our team, but I'm the
Owner and operator.
I'm the buck stops.
She's so high up, she doesn't have to remember all the clients. That's how big she is. Don't tell the other clients.
That's true. Don't tell
Yeah.
other. Yeah.
I work with Blind Pilot. They're a band from Astoria, Oregon. I work with Cassandra Lewis, sort of new artist on Elektra. And Elektra fired the entire company this week, so that's a lot of fun. Cassandra's also at Farm Aid today and playing with Dave Matthews and Willie Nelson and Neil Young and having a great day. And then I also manage Soundgarden, who you guys probably know. I've been working with them for 4 years and just signed another band from Oregon called We Three. It's 3 siblings. They're in their 20s and they're incredible. They're making a record right now in White Center with this great producer Andy Park. So that's me.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so the number one question that we hear constantly at the Academy, I know Kay and Ben here at Sonic Guild, every session that I've ever been to at something like this, people ask, how do I know when I need a manager? When is the right time for me to get a manager?
Why don't you start off if you want?
I'll field this one because I'm the most cynical, I think, up here. Generally, when you're making enough money, the people in the business will swarm on you because everyone in the business wants a piece of what the talented people earn. So I think the time is like when there's a business to manage or when there's money to be made off your records, these entities will come find you because they want to participate in that revenue that you're generating. So I think that was a cynical answer, but I think it's also like a real one because it's so hard to develop an artist from ground zero to make money, to find fans. It's getting more and more competitive. So it's harder for labels and managers to justify, usually years of time and energy and not making any money. So that's my answer.
And I would also add that it does feel good to be able to pay people that work for you. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a kind of seems sort of obvious, but it is, people are, managers put a lot of time, more than probably anybody on your team. Right? No, but we put in a lot of time, and a lot of it is like in hopes and all that. But it does feel really good to be compensated and to be seen, and I think it goes both ways.
To be a little less cynical, no. I'd also say that when you find yourself, things are getting busy and things you don't understand, it doesn't necessarily mean you need a specific type of manager, but you need help at that point, Now, the level of manager, could be a friend, could be a seasoned manager, could be a really seasoned manager, but I'd say when you can't handle the workload anymore and you just don't understand what's going on, People start throwing terms at you and you're like, what does that word even mean,
But I would also say advice. I mean, and having like people that,
Yeah.
like, I'm always totally open to questions. If you don't understand something, if you want, my door is open, because it's not easy. But yeah, to take that next step to, like, it's a big commitment too, to sign up with people.
It's a very intimate relationship.
Very
for
intimate
sure.
relationship.
Can you talk a little bit about that relationship and how you all as managers decide the artists that you want to work with?
Can I make one more comment real quick?
Yeah.
I think it's really important too, as a young artist, to know how your business works, and so you need to do it as long as you can until you can't do it anymore. Because when you hand off certain parts of it, you need to understand how things work better than everybody, and because that's how people can take advantage of you too. When you have no idea what's going on. That band I mentioned, We Three, they signed many years ago. I'd just help them get out of it, but they signed a record deal, publishing deal, management deal, and business management deal with one person. He has all their rights, and they didn't consult a lawyer when they signed this, and so they were just in this deal for like 6 years, and they didn't have any information. They weren't getting the money they were owed. Like, it was just a nightmare. And always consult a lawyer first before you sign a contract. But they didn't know, because they just let this guy run with everything. And I think if you can learn your business, know how it works, know who your fans are, you will be able to keep an eye on everybody on your team, because not everyone always operates with the best intentions.
I know Mark said that he is like the self-described cynic, but that is actually very true. And unfortunately, we've seen that happen so many times. And so really take that cautionary tale to heart. Again, there are a lot of people out there who really do want to help and who really do want to do good, but it is so smart for you to understand business fundamentals, know trusted people who you can get advice and resources from, come to things like this where you could sort of hear some of these stories so that you are able to make really smart decisions when you are making some of these choices about the people that you're going to work with and sort of bring into your circle and pay. So to that end, how do you all as managers elect to work with artists, and what sort of like interview process or hangout session? I know the producers were talking a little bit about that before they agree to work with artists. They want to understand the artist's intent and sort of feel like they're a good match together. So how does that work for managers?
I mean, I don't interview enough. I am a total gut human being. If my gut tells me, and the times that I haven't trusted my gut have sort of come back to bite me in different ways. But I mean, Tenacious D, I've worked with them for 25, going on 26 years. To stalk them until, I got to work with them. And my most recent celebrated feeling was during the pandemic. I listening to music and stumbled upon Hermanos Gutierrez, and just was like, I can't live without this. I don't know. I had no idea if this. They've never toured. They were playing a few shows in Switzerland, but my instinct was just like, let's just like, let's just DM these guys and see what happens. And it was the greatest thing. It's been such a celebrated thing for me because trust my instinct. It's instrumental guitar music, and you know, all their shows have sold out. People around the world, I guess, were experiencing the same thing, and it's like, that can still fucking happen, you know?
You
Like,
can swear, it's fine.
total gut feeling. I can't live without this, and apparently other people felt the same way. I mean, the first time they ever came to the U.S., a friend of mine in LA was like, I love it too. What do you think it'll do? I'm like, I have no idea. Let's just put it in this one room, seed it, and see what happens. And it sold out, and it was like just magic. So I feel very fortunate that my instincts is still intact after after 30 years of doing something like that. I think it's 30, close to 30 years of management.
So you rely on your gut.
My gut.
Anyone else?
I pretty much rely on my gut as well. A couple of other things I might take notice of are if I keep hearing their name in the streets of Seattle, or, hey, this band is bringing 250 people to the venue, that makes kind of a light bulb go off in my head. I'm like, that many people are coming, what's happening over here? But back to the gut, I'd probably say it's not so much about the music I love. It's more if I see something special in that band, it's like, okay, I know people can connect with this, or they're doing something different than everyone else in the city. Those kind of things really stand out to me. And as far as an interview process, it's not that deep, but I do like to know, I like to know a little bit about their work ethic, their lives, family, if they're going to be okay leaving family to go do work, how much time they can put into this, day jobs, and just all the realistic questions, like before we get married on this, it has to make sense, I suppose, more than anything, Yeah.
I've trusted my gut a lot, and my gut has been wrong a lot, and that's not a great feeling either, because like we talked about, it's years of commitment, and sometimes you make $0 in 3 or 4 years working for someone, and you can believe so strongly, and when no one else on the planet agrees with you, it's a very lonely feeling. You're like, how am I the only person that thinks this artist is really, really, really good? So I try not to listen to my gut as much. Congratulations to both of you for having good guts. It's every artist that comes to me or to our company comes in a different way. It definitely helps when there's something happening that you can like see in front of you versus just like you hear a song and no one knows who they are, and you think you're the one who can like take them to Madison Square Garden. So sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. I don't go off my gut anymore. That's my point.
Well, I mean, for me, it is really a huge risk because it is much smaller than, Redlight, and maybe
I'm not the owner operator.
It's a little.
I didn't take the Redlight helicopter here from Redmond today. I had to
Okay.
drive in the
That's true.
traffic.
We were both in
Yeah.
brutal traffic, but it is all risky, and
Yeah.
it is such a personal relationship, and to everything, like you want to see the drive, of course, in the artist, and make sure that they're showing up, as much as you are, or definitely, ideally more than.
Sure.
So yeah.
That's a great point. You can't work harder than the artist, and I've had several artists in my career where I work harder than they do. I care more, and it doesn't work. The artist has to drive. They have to be the leader. They have to be the visionary. When you're talking about album covers or T-shirts, and the band has no idea like what they want, it's like I can't be your creative director also. So they have to really they have to lead, and everyone else has to get in line behind them and help like push them up the hill.
And it works much better
For sure.
that way.
It's almost like the artist is the board of directors and you're the CEO representing their company, but you always check with them, or
Yep.
you don't make moves without them. And I would like to add just a red flag for me, at least, is social media these days tells me a lot about people. If I see artists that are constantly on social media complaining about the Seattle music scene, or why don't I get this, and people are blackballing me and this and that, I stay far away from that personally. I just think if you're expressing that on social media, I probably would not get along with you very well, Yeah.
What are some other tips that you have for some of the artists out here who may be looking for a manager? They might be ready or they're preparing to be ready someday. If you all are sort of relying on your gut or other instincts, how can they maybe appeal to that gut or appeal to your instincts in a way that maybe differentiates them? How can they get on your radar?
That is a good question.
That is a good question.
Kind of
Stumped the
Yes, you
panel.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say stumped because I don't know. You know, like I've had, you know, I think in some of the like, even say mentoring things, like people I've known for a long time that I'm just like, if I hear something, but I'm like, I don't know if it's ready yet, but you know, keep in touch and you see if something develops. I feel like, I don't know. I think because again, it's so much that you just can't you can't just figure it. It's not so like today is the day that this needs to happen. It's like like Sasami, somebody I've known for a long time. She went through a lot of different phases in her life. I was her friend. I was her just there as a consultant to her in a lot of ways. If she had another manager, she'd still call me and say, "Oh, like what do you think?" Just advice. And now we're working together, but it feels like we've had a friendship over 10, almost 10 years now. So I feel like pretty close to her, even though we're not that, we're not that close, but I felt close enough to her music and things like that. So it evolved. And I think it's just, sometimes it's just time, time, it really, I think time gives itself to you.
Every situation's different with each artist as well, right?
Yeah, and sometimes I got a call about like it was like in like a not a crisis but like a good crisis. Things were doing really well, and they're like, are you game to get involved? And I was, I saw that it was things were happening, and it made sense to jump in and get involved. So I was like, I don't know if I can do this right now, and it's like, well. They're showing up, and there is a business, so let's just make it happen, But I don't know. Ideally it's a 25-year. I mean, I love that I've worked with these guys for so long, and there's so much trust, and that they respect my voice and my vision with to lead their career, or help them with their career. And I don't know.
One way, so Marco Collins, does anyone know Marco Collins in here? So Marco is the one who put Cassandra Lewis on my radar a few years ago, the artist who's at Farm Aid today. He stumbled upon her when he was in Portland just seeing music one night and was blown away. And so like recommendations from people in the music business or in Seattle, KEXP, there's so many people in the business looking out or looking for the next great thing or the next artist that they want to tell everyone about. And usually they'll tell everyone they know in the music business. I got here and Ben immediately was like, have you heard this artist? And he like showed me this new artist he just heard about. So there's a lot of that too. And that's how I hear about a lot of things as well. And Cassandra, for one, we ended up signing her 3 years ago. And simply because Marco just stumbled upon her. I mean, sometimes it can be that easy.
Yeah, find advocates, find people in the industry and the community who really are invested in you and invested in your music and who will help speak your name in rooms. That's a really important part. And, this comes up a lot too, but you never know who's lurking in what space you're in. So it's really beneficial for you to like be a good person, be cool, respect people. It really matters, and having a champion and advocates for you really, really, really can facilitate a lot of meaningful business partnerships and relationships beyond management. So just hot tip.
Yeah.
And to
And if,
add, go ahead.
oh, no, go
I
ahead.
was going to add on to what you said, that sound man that you yell at that venue, that small venue one night, could be the festival booker 3 years down the road, So like you said, be nice to everybody, because it really does happen,
Yeah, and even if you're opening for someone on a Monday night and there's 4 people in the room, the person who booked the show will find out if you were incredible or not. And it doesn't matter how many people were there. like the booker for the tractor will tell someone who will also tell someone, and that can be your break.
Yeah.
And it's not because you brought in, 500 people to and sold out a show. It's like if you're incredible and compelling and nice and respectful and all those things, like word can spread. And the people that book the tractor want to tell everyone in town about the artist that just played at their venue. So that people in the business talk to each other a lot, and that's how mainly we find out about new music.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's do an experiment. How many of you are musicians? Raise your hand. How many of you are managers? How many of you are musicians that have a manager? Oh, interesting. Okay. He's deciding. You're deciding. I thought you were just asking, like, will you be my manager?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, for the managers in the room, feel free to ask questions related to, your space in the industry. For musicians in the room, feel free to grill these guys on what you want to know as you're looking for a manager. I'd love to start opening it up for questions if anyone has any burning questions. Yes, front row. So what do you do as a manager? What's your role?
What don't we do? That's the quick answer.
I'll start. I think it varies on where the artist is in their career, at what point. I tend to gravitate towards, at this moment, gravitate towards baby bands, bands that I can kind of help mold and bring along, understand their vision and help them how to get there. I used to own a record label for about 12 years, so I have a little bit of just, the management insight, but this label insight as well. And can you repeat the question again? I'm gonna.
What do you do as a manager?
Yeah, okay.
What's
gotcha.
your job?
I'm thinking two different things. Yeah, it's a little bit of everything, like you said. I mean, you can book the shows, you can be the publicist, you can be everything they need, but my goal would be to manage everything they need. I want to manage the label, I want to manage the publicist, manage the agent, and be like the liaison. But before that can happen, you are definitely in the trenches, being very scrappy, doing anything they need. From speaking their name in rooms, putting them on a pedestal if you have to, but ultimately I would say you're giving them a platform that they didn't have before they met you, So our voices are probably big, we know a lot of people, so they come to us and we're like, here, let's put you in front of a few people and see what happens,
Yeah, connectors, right? Constant connectors.
Connect dots and help them map out their vision,
But overseeing all
Yeah, all
aspects.
aspects,
I
yeah.
mean, from merch, merch, all of it. I
Yeah,
mean, we're like
everything, yeah.
we're ground zero, and we're the
We might drive.
we're the
sometimes.
last we're the last
Yeah.
person before the artist, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody comes to
Sure.
everybody comes to us.
Yeah. If the band is like, hey, we want to get here, we want to do this, how do we get from point A to B? How can we start touring nationally and just keeping things realistic? A lot of times artists think that these things happen overnight or that a manager getting with one of us can make things happen overnight. But it's just taking the time to explain to them, educate them, and just show them the route, I suppose. I don't know if that's really answering, but that's. What'd you say? Pacing expectations. Yeah, for sure. For sure, definitely, yeah. Yeah, no question.
Mark, what do you think? Mark, what's your job?
What's my job? I say I do two things. Well, one, managers, we're like penny collectors. So that's what we do. That's how we make money. We pick up pennies on the ground that our artists drop. I kind of look at it as my job is to help my artists make fans and make money. And anything that falls under those two umbrellas is sort of my domain. But like he said, we manage the team. We manage the relationship with the label, the publicist, the lawyer, to give you a sports analogy, we're the quarterback. To give you a bicycle analogy, we're the spoke and the whatever. Like we're in the center hub. But we're also, like she said, she's like the last line of defense. We're also usually the first ones that get fired. Like we're the ones that get blamed when things aren't going well, because a lot of artists don't want to take responsibility for decisions they made, the avant-garde record they made instead of making another pop record, which is what everyone in the world wants. Like whatever it is, we're gonna get blamed first and we're gonna get fired first, and that's why artists like jump around from manager to manager to manager so often. It's um, unfortunately we're like the first line of defense and the first one usually gone.
And you learn as a manager to not, eventually you learn to not take it personal. You know, the first couple can be a little hit, but after a while, you're like, it's just like working at a job with someone. One day you're not going to see that person again, and you just have to move on, you know?
I see Goldie with a question in the very back.
For some artists, if they need that, it can happen for sure. But the goal would be to hire someone out. But until they have the funds to do that, yeah, I'll jump in there for sure, you know?
I would say it can be so many things. It's the best when they do it themselves, and of course we can help create assets. So there's tours that go up, and it sometimes the band can't get all the info, and there's a lot of like just the facts stuff. But I'm not gonna pretend that I'm gonna have I go to Jack's house and film him in his, superhero costume and edit it together. So I don't know. It's a lot of different things, but we definitely like if there's a big tour or if there's a big different announcements, we line things up and work with the artist. And I got a guy, like
exactly
pull
right,
some shit, pull it together.
I concur.
Yes.
I want nothing to do with it. Like, and maybe it's my age or whatever. Like, I don't care. So it needs to happen. So someone else can deal with it.
Got it. So related then, as a manager, do you advise your artists on when it's time to bring in a publicist and bring on maybe a marketing agency when it becomes too overwhelming or consuming? Or what if they're just really bad at doing social media? And that's like getting in the way of them getting booked or gaining fans.
Most artists that I work with are bad at social media. I mean, I would hate to say that, like, so many people have said, like, oh, what about this artist? I'm like, yeah, they're good at social media. I don't think the music's good, though, so that's unfortunate. Their videos are funny, but I don't think, and I also have a 19-year-old daughter, so she's definitely the like, ugh, nobody's gonna go buy a ticket to that. Like maybe they'll go out of curiosity one time, or she's a good tester pilot for like that stuff stinks.
I do the same with my
It's
kids,
yeah, it stinks, and like we smell through that. Like the real artist, that I'm in it for the career. It's tough. It's not always the easiest thing. Some days you're like, all right, well, this is a good day. Today was a good day, and but yeah, the long careers and that the long-term sustainability is what I'm sure the three of us are after, and it's really it can be so fulfilling, and it's fraught with all sorts of things. I've literally been doing this for so long. I every day, and I was just in a car with a person that works at Sub Pop, and we've both been in the business for so long. It's like you think you've seen it all, and then nah, you haven't. Like it'll still surprise you. Things change every day. You're like, all right, yeah, I kind of understand how this algorithm thing works, or I kind of understand that, and then nope, they throw another, the whole new set of rules on Spotify or Apple, and now you got these other difficult. You can't always. All you can do is make the best music, try to make the best art, set out all the intentions, and it usually falls into it will fall into place if you feel a good team. You actually feel when it's working. It's a strange thing too. You can really tap into that, like like the hermanos. You could tap into that. Like everybody on the team, everybody has been showing up, and they're selling, but it's not that. It's like the band's showing. Like we all are accountable in a really beautiful like. Everybody really knows what they're doing, and it feels really respectful. And it when it works, it's like, damn, it's like a drug. It's like we gotta do it again. Let's keep going. You know, like what's the next? You know, it feels so good.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah, don't do drugs. This could be your.
There's like a 15-year-old out there.
Oh yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's like a high.
No.
It's
Yeah,
like
we
a-
get it.
It's like really good
A high.
pizza. Like really
Really
good
good
pizza.
pizza.
Have you
You wanna
ever had
keep
ice
eating.
cream?
Good binge watching TV, right?
Yeah, junk food. I don't-
So, in terms of order of ops of building out a team, does manager come first, and then the manager helps to bring on other entities, or how should our artists be thinking about that?
I'd say again, it varies, but generally I would think a manager would come first, yeah, to help you navigate the rest of the pieces of the puzzle, you know, yeah, for sure.
But sometimes the manager hears about an artist from the publicist or the label, and
Booking
so you
agent.
don't get to
Radio promoter,
handpick everybody, but ideally you do. So
It does feel a little chicken and egg between a publicist and a manager. I think a lot of people have bounced around there trying to figure out like which comes first.
Yeah.
Publicists cost a lot more money off the top than a manager
And I don't
off
think
the
that,
top.
yeah, and I feel like, I'm sorry for publicists in the room, but publicity is, you know, it's tough. It's not it's not the same that it used to be. And it really can be, you're trying to sell yourself. It is getting into the room with maybe a person that's at a booker for a club, or it's that word, it somehow the certain things bubble up. But I feel like publicity is like a, not my like, oh please, like let's try to get. I mean, I have people that are like, no, we're gonna get your band into this. I'm like, I don't know who's reading. I barely read. I don't really look at those things
It's different
as
these days,
much.
for
It's
sure.
definitely different than it used to be in the '90s. I started.
when no one here was born. The thing with that too is, yes, if you can get on Jimmy Fallon, awesome. If you can get on SNL, awesome. But they really don't move the needle anymore. So it's like everyone's fighting for the New York Times or Rolling Stone and all these things, but they don't do what they used to do. But we kind of act like they do.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a weird business indicator. Like people will say to me, like, "Yeah, that artist it's everywhere." And it's like, yeah, but it's not really resonant. It's not the reality of it isn't working. Like I was working with a band that they had. I mean, I don't work with them anymore, and they're good friends, and they have like the #1. I think they have the #1 Billboard TikTok song right now, but nobody would interview them at all. But they had fans, and they had sold out, and I was like, that's an excellent. I would take that, you know, almost any day over like being talked about. Like they have an amazing business.
Yeah, that's the world we're living in now, for sure.
So, what are the vehicles, if not Jimmy Fallon, Rolling Stone, or the New York Times? How does an artist penetrate? How does an artist get noticed today?
It's word of mouth. It's just like people telling people. I mean, look at what happened to Chapel Roan this summer. It's like insane what has happened. And I feel like it's just people getting excited, telling people. And it's so much easier to tell a lot of people now. Like that is the thing you can't manufacture, you can't buy, and that's how bands are like getting noticed. I mean, you look at festival posters and there's 7 bands we all know, and then there's 100 things I've never heard of. I'm like, who knows all these things? But they're all like, these are the TikTok bands, and these are this, and you know, they're all in these little different bubbles. But it all is like people sharing it. It's just like people generated.
So, a priority is building your fan base organically day one.
For sure. I think the gatekeepers of the old days are gone, and that's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing. And sometimes it's like I open Spotify and I'm like, what is all this? There's so much, I don't even know where to start anymore. But things, right? You know, the cream, it does, like the things that are really working. And there's a lot of different ways to have a business now, which I don't know that it used to be. So it wasn't really. And I think it's so much better because there were contracts that were just insane when I started working with bands that like they would be laughed out of the room right now. Like there's no world in which like these contracts would fly. And a lot of it is because hopefully, you know, you do deals with good, like ideally good people, but also you know, you have to be ready to sign too. You know, I like to wait as long as possible to sign up anybody, because you're giving something away, and make sure it's valued and make sure it's even, and everything's time, you know, the right time for everything. I think the longer you can hold back from giving away your rights, you know, whatever those rights may be. But there were so many things in those early contracts that, like, rights not reverting to people. It's insane to think that, like, that's not right, you know? That's just,
Don't sign something
there
that's
are.
bad for you. Don't sign something scary. Don't sign something without having like a proper legal review. I think we all learned that lesson for y'all in the 90s.
I want to just touch on something you said earlier, and maybe it was this question as well, but I think the artist and the team need to ask themselves what goals they actually want. Like, if you want to be on SNL and you want to win a Grammy, that's a whole different route, you know? If you want to make money, pack venues, that's a whole different route. They can't mesh, of course, but I like to tell artists sometimes and let them see, I won't say it's super easy, but let them do the math. It's like, if you have a mailing list of 3,000 people, maybe 1,000 of them
Explain mailing list to all these people, please.
All right. No, not DMs, no. And 1,000 of those people are hardcore fans. You know, you can sell them, if you can get them to spend $100 a year, you know, that's 2 T-shirts, a couple concert tickets, an album. That's $100,000 a year for you as an artist. You know, I mean, do you want $100,000, or do you want to, you know, try to fight for SNL with everyone else and something you probably won't get? You know what I mean? So I think it's just a matter of what your goals are and how you're trying to do it. You know.
There's a great, you may be referencing this. There's a great like blog post from years ago called 1,000 True Fans or something like that, and it talks about the concept like you only need 1,000, and if you can get $100 from them a year, then you have you can have the basis for a career to be an artist. And so, I mean, you can Google that later if
I
you want.
probably read that when I was getting into management.
Yeah.
Anyone that promises you anything, you know, I just don't believe them, you know, because we can't promise anything. I can promise I'll work hard, but that's about all I can promise. You know, I can tell you there's a good chance of this happening if we do this and go about it this way, but I can't promise you anything. Yeah, I don't know how the public is going to perceive you, or what the universe might have in store for us. You know. Yeah.
I think that really sums it all up. I think he says, that's it. I think I would stand behind that. You can't promise anything.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's a given.
And
so
some try to do it, you know.
Yeah,
It's like,
and
really?
I mean, we have relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really, I would say most of my my worth is like the value of all the years of experience and having good relationships with labels or publishers or publicists or radio, you know, all of it, right? I know too many people, but I do think that is like a huge value that I bring, and I think it's trusted. You know, I'm willing to I'm willing to promise that I will introduce people to those people, but it doesn't mean that anything necessarily happens. It can, I don't know.
Anything else, Mark?
I think, like with Michel, 25 years with Tenacious D is like the ultimate thing to put on her resume, not because it's Tenacious D, but an artist has stuck with her for that long and vice versa. And so I think, you know, there are managers in this business that churn through clients left and right. And then there are managers like, you used to work at Silva, right?
Yep.
And that is a really established management company with clients that they've had forever. And so, and at Redlight, the company was founded by the first Dave Matthews manager, and he's still managing Dave Matthews, and it's been 40 years. So these are I think these are really good indicators of like the quality of people that you want to align with versus people who are just chasing the next thing, and if it doesn't work, they will dump you, and then you're on the streets again.
I think, DeVon, what you said about making promises is just a really good thing to keep in mind, right? That's a really easy red flag to identify as someone is saying like, I promise I can earn you $1 million in the next 2 years. Like, if they're guaranteeing it and backing it, cool. But I think, that's a really important thing to take with you because it's a really easy way to identify.
Filter it out. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. 1 or 2 traits a manager should have to prolong their career in management.
Short memory. Dealing with artists, no offense, to anyone in the room, but like artists are mercurial. They change their mind all the time. They have wild ideas, which is why they make great art. But then when they try to like plug into the business, it's the ideas don't always sort of make sense. So you just have to like try not to get too frustrated and keep your eye on the prize and like keep everyone moving in the same direction and not let these things sort of derail you, because it's very difficult to launch a record and get people to pay attention and do all these things. And it's easy to lose momentum when things don't start going well. So I say a short memory.
I mean, I think I think listening, like you gotta really, because artists are so mercurial and there's so many ideas that they want to get all these things off their chest and and you have to really listen and tap into the thing that is true, like the thing that you can hold on to, and maybe that becomes the thing that is the granule to their next idea. I mean, all of my artists, it's like they come in with the wildest idea, but if they come back to this one thing and it's kind of a recurrent thing, I'm like, we're doing this. They care that much. It's come up enough times. So I think really listening, and I think I've done a pretty good job of like being really in tune with what this artist wants to do. I've done the wildest shit, I have done the fucking craziest shit. I mean, I'm okay to say it
you
now.
wanna
For so long,
elaborate?
I was like so shy about what I did, but like
Tea.
for
This is where the drug thing comes back.
yeah,
think
I
we're
know.
gonna-
No, I'm
we're
just
gonna get it.
well for like Karen O made a record with Danger Mouse 5 years ago because we just put it up. We repressed the vinyl.
Record. Don't say it was a bad record. That was a
Greatest record. It's perfect. But she, with that record, was really, it was before the pandemic, but really was like really important to her to have an experience where everybody was in a space together. And she looked at me and she said, I want a bunch of people to sit around a rock that it rains, it changes colors, it you're invited in, it's a special thing. I want it to be part of the album, but this whole immersive experience. I raised close to $1 million for art's sake. It nearly killed me. I saw what she wanted to do. We did it. It was incredible. I can't even believe that happened. We did this insane thing on the Colbert Show for one of the songs. Single camera, Spike Jones filmed, crazy thing. The experience, it nearly killed me, put me into early grade. And I was like, why? I just did this. I did it for the art of it.
Because you didn't get even paid, probably,
didn't get
right?
paid, did not get
Yeah.
paid. And literally everyone around me was like, you're insane, this is crazy. A week later, this TV show was like, would Karen be interested in doing this? The show sounded cool. She did like something on her guitar at home, delivered it. They were like, we don't want nothing else. We want it as is, a demo. Use it for 4 seasons. And it paid me for all that time. It was like one of those like, you gotta trust your intuition and just do the thing that really like is sparking like that creative joy. And I did a festival with Tenacious D for 4 years, Festival Supreme, like the most insane one of the, like another crazy thing that these multinational, Live Nations and AAGs or whatever wanted to buy it, and Jack's like, I don't want to sell it. It's because we wanted to protect the vision, and I still feel so proud of it. And we did 4 years, and it was awesome, So I don't know, like showing up for your artist when they need you to, and I've done it for the big, I do it for the big ones. I do it for the small, because I do believe in that. Like, if you got the vision, I'm here to support that vision. So let's do it.
So short memory, emotional intelligence, listening, and
Pretty much everything they said. Maybe having a little bit of a psychology degree. Sometimes you do have to go there with artists. They become your friends and family as well. Sometimes, I won't say every time it works out like that, but I always tell artists, we're starting off as business, and I hope we become friends throughout this. You know what I mean? Yeah, but everything you all said.
I love that Karen O story because it sort of describes like the risk that the manager also takes, right? So you invested so much time and energy and probably other financial resources of your own into this project for them to make this really amazing art. But having a person in your corner who believes in you and is championing that for you and is willing to do that for you probably, I hope, helps you create that amazing art because that record is so good. I love that record. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's
That's
really
an
important to
extreme- I mean,
have.
that is, that was, I mean, that's an extreme example, but I do think like, you know, with some of the smaller bands, like you just see if something keeps coming up, it's like they probably really want to do that. You know, they probably really, if it comes up one time, maybe not, you know, maybe it's like, oh yeah, we should do this charity event and da da da. It's like, okay, like, do you want to, you know, like, because whatever those things are, sometimes people just want to do it because it seems like it's a good thing to do. But you know, when it resonates and when they're really thinking about it and they really are ready to like tap in and like show up and do something, I'm down. I don't want, I want to explore the thing that really is going to, because those are the things that can be, you know, can be life changing, you know, for everybody involved. I mean, it could be the thing that tips the scales for everybody to take notice, you know. You never know, but you know, I'm not going to run my, like, I've done it enough to kind of know when it's like, okay, well, we can circle the wagons, but like, not going to show up more than you are gonna, you know, you're gonna have to put your time in and let's definitely meet each other. And I get up and do this every day because I get the calls that are like, I have this great song, can I send it to you? You know, and people that are just my artists that are just constantly pushing me, you know, like, I want to show up because they're showing up. I don't want to wake up and say like, what are you doing? You know, I want to be inspired to work because I mean, yeah.
What I'm hearing is ignore them the first 4 times. And if they bring it up a 5th time, then you'll listen.
Sticks, huh?
Okay, good. It's like with your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my kids.
Yeah.
I also heard for your list, dedication felt like something that just came out, and then investment in your artists, and maybe some risk taking on the manager side. All right, other questions? How have you been adapting to technology innovation?
Yeah. No, I mean, one thing, I mean, it's true. Like there is more transparency and there's ways to tap in and to what Mark was saying about collecting pennies. I mean, there are pennies out there. You know, they're out there for the taking. I mean, there's artists get YouTube money for their videos that they upload. Like, you should be making sure that you're monetizing the content that you put up. Like, it is crazy what is available to you, and it's supposed to come in, but you need, I have someone who tracks it for us because it's the Wild West, you know, that I'm like, I would love to audit all these companies, you know, like they're holding on to so much of the income, but it's there and the transparency is there, and so you just have to like know where to, you know, I think that is what we've been really, I mean, we really got into it even more so during the pandemic, because you're sitting there, you're like, I'm going to question this, you know, I'm going to start questioning a lot more things. So we have a lot of systems set up just to make sure your your performing royalties, you know, there's just so many there are so many faulty things that have become more transparent. Yeah, I could go into a big example in Europe, but there's a lot to tap into, and there's a list of things that we just, you know, make sure that we check with our business managers or with our artists.
I will say also related, know what licenses are, what licenses exist, and also related to your publishing, understand your publishing, whether you work with a publisher or self-publishing, and check out the Mechanical Licensing Collective. Register your works there. It's free. There are so many artists that I know that have picked up a couple $100 here and there just the minute that they registered because they had all of these unclaimed mechanical royalties sitting around that they didn't even know they were entitled to. So it's important for y'all to sort of learn who owes you what monies, and it's also important to then take the next steps to follow up on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're opening for a band, you are if you can submit your work, you should be getting paid from your performance societies on those performances. Like, there's pennies to collect. Don't know your rights. These are your rights. Know your rights.
There's a great book. Some of you might have read it. All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. It's like 40 years old. There's all these updated editions, but he's a really prominent music business attorney, and he wrote this basically for artists. And so it just breaks down every part of the business, where royalties come from, how publishing works, what royalties you're entitled to. It's a great book. You can get it anywhere. I think that's sort of like a good foundation if you're an artist, just to read this and understand these things, because it's really complicated. I don't understand half of what's going on in the business right now. I've been doing it for 30 years.
So related to that, sort of, I have a follow-up question. So with the way that, we're sort of all olds here talking about the 90s and old school and how much the music industry has changed and how much technology innovation has happened over the last 40 plus years, and even just the last 10 years, and now in the last 2 years with the introduction of AI. So when you're working with your artists, how do you think about the future-proofing their careers and sort of working with them through who knows what's next, either technology innovation-wise or democratization of the industry and of tools that are available where these old systems don't necessarily exist anymore? How do you work with your artists in sort of thinking about how to move their careers forward and the 5 to 10 year plan?
That's a good question as well. I think we just all have to be ready to adapt. I mean, this stuff changes. Like you mentioned earlier, I think you were talking about Spotify, but I'll just speak about like Meta and the back end and advertising. I mean, you can get it all ready and finally figured out. You've spent months and now you've got it dialed in. And then these guys go and just change something on you just like that, and now you have to adapt and figure it out. But just being nimble is super important. And being honest with the artists too. I mean, let them know hey, I'm gonna take some time to figure this out, and then we're gonna move ahead. I'm gonna explain it to you. We're gonna educate them as well.
Anyone else? Mark's got something to say.
I don't have anything to say other than like, it feels like survival every day with your artist in most cases, that you can plan for this week, next month, next year. I don't think that far ahead. It's just like, I don't know if these artists are going to make it 5 more years, So maybe with a band like Tenacious D, who's been around forever and has the status and clout to like sort of, no pun intended, like choose their own destiny. Sorry. Maybe you can plan like that. But, not to put you on the hot seat, but something happened this summer with that band that probably derailed everything you had been planning for years. And I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, spill it.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do,
Okay.
yeah.
Want to get it? Does everybody want to hear it?
Well,
Yes.
if you don't mind, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Seems-
it's it's like it was a big deal for a minute, and there's been so many instances of things like this have happened over the years, Dixie Chicks and whatever. Like, as a manager, it's like almost worst case scenario, right? Like, you're like, oh shit, what happened?
Day 2 of a sold out arena tour in Australia. It was. Do I need to sum it up? Or
Yeah,
is
I think it would be
everybody
helpful
pretty
if you
aware?
just gave a highlight of what happened, and then, I think the reason why I think we want to hear the story is we want to learn lessons from it.
Kyle, 2 days maybe after the first attempted assassination of Donald Trump, Kyle took the liberty on stage to have his birthday wish, and he said, "Don't miss Trump next time." And we were living in the reality of what was said, and nothing happened at all for 2 days. In fact, we were sitting there, I'm looking on YouTube, somebody put it up, and
Wait, no one picked up on this for 2 days?
no, because we were in the future. So in Australia, it was like, oh, I don't know, it was said in the thing, but so I was looking on YouTube, and somebody put up a clip, and most of the comments were like, "Happy birthday, whatever." I don't know. Nobody really acknowledged it. So yeah, we were kind of just looking at it, and I guess we went to the next city, and it was like 4 a.m, and it had been it.
Were you there?
Yeah. Oh, I was there. I was there in a like, I'm gonna go down there and celebrate this
Yeah.
after like I had a really rough, people passed away, and it was a rough year, personally. So I was, yeah. So yeah, this was a unfortunate thing that happened, but yeah, I got all these calls. It was the East Coast, and we decided to not continue, which was really hard to just pull out of a really great, awesome tour and awesome people, and send everybody home. And yeah, it felt like, but it felt surreal being in the moment, but then you're truly like on your phone versus reality. Reality is so much better than technology.
Yeah.
I was in my, in my room, and it seemed like everyone's gonna be swarming, like we're not gonna get out of there. It's gonna be crazy. No one cared. I go down to the lobby like, how's it going? How you
Yeah.
doing? I'm like, oh, we're just canceling a tour. I'm going home. Yeah, we had all these plans. Really, we had a lot of. We had a big tour, election, get out the vote tour, that was supposed to be happening next month, in all the swing states, that we had to cancel. But I think the sometimes, 25 years in, it's kind of, or for me, for them longer, but it was kind of, it was very hard, but we just kind of, it's been a good opportunity to just look at ourselves, and I don't know, it's not great, but it's also, I don't know, things happen for a reason. That was the thing that made us all kind of go like, wait, we're having a great time. Maybe we don't have to push right now. Maybe we can reflect and talk with each other, and I don't know, it feels pretty good.
It's interesting that you said the real world was totally fine, but the internet was like
It was
on fire
on
about
fire.
this.
On
And is it possible to just ignore the internet? Or is it there's all the people around you telling you how bad it is,
Yeah.
and that's how you feel it in the real world?
Yeah, no, I think that was, it was, if you were in my, if you were like in that space, it felt every single person, my phone's phone, every single person's telling you like this, that, and the other, and everyone's got their 2 cents, and it really wasn't it wasn't really the truth. The truth is, could be so many things, like nobody felt particularly like being funny after, that was the reason why we canceled. Like, don't feel that funny right now. It doesn't feel like the time to just go and say, fuck it, let's move on. So I think, again, with everything happens for a reason, and sometimes perspective, and while it was awful, it's maybe the biggest high when we hadn't been, we all hadn't been to Australia in so long, and to get back down there, it's really expensive and far and all those things. So, we'd come off of a really big year, big day, and I think reflecting is not a bad thing. It's financially a drag, but
And then what comes next? Like, how do you rebound from this when they come back on stage together? Sometimes, is it acknowledged? Is it not acknowledged? What's next for the band? Like, how are you all working through this? Because canceling a big tour like that's a big deal.
We pulled a Metallica. We did some group therapy. It's really amazing.
There'll be a documentary on it?
I wish. It would be so awesome. But it really, we all talked. We talked we took the time that we were going to be away and really like sat in a room and got out all sorts of stuff. It was super powerful, and they're my family. I mean, the band and this crew. I mean, all the people that we've worked with for so long. So it's just like sometimes when you just pull back and you see things, it's actually feels pretty good. I mean, I'd say the only downside is like financial, but I do think, they pull themselves up from what was perceived to be like the biggest box office bomb for Pick of Destiny, while they were, the movie didn't do well. They had sold out Madison Square Garden, so they're like, man, we gotta go on stage, like 14,000 people, but the movie didn't do well. Like celebrate. You gotta celebrate all the wins. The wins are good. The losses sting, and if you have trust and support and good communication with everybody. I mean, communication is so not to be looked over. People really have to say how they're feeling. I mean, and I think maybe that is like I can't even express like some of the band buses I was on, and I'm like, God, this conversation, some of this stuff just doesn't seem like people are holding back their, we as managers, if there's 5 people in a band, I'm getting 5 stories, like you've got to be political and figure out the solutions and make sure people do, if there is an issue, that they communicate. I mean, these are fundamental things that if you're in a family or if you're a parent, you want to tell, you just have to be communicative. And if people are holding back on the way they feel, I mean, I don't know if in the early days it's all fun, but like some of the things you set up in those early days can really come back to haunt you. I worked with Rage Against the Machine. I mean, those guys, they can't get along. And I think it was a lot of the things that were set up fundamentally with the band. When you start out, like just make sure that everybody understands their role and how everything fits in. I think communication is so so powerful and maybe overlooked because it all feels good. And if you can't talk about the hard stuff early or when it gets hard and you brush it over because that tour just seems good and you need to make money, it'll come up to bite you somehow, right?
I think that that's a really important point to hit on that comes up a lot too, is when you are young in your career and you are forming bands, you're starting to maybe, before you start making money, make sure that you have conversations about money, splits, things like that, before you go into the studio, before you put anything out. Because once you've made money, it's too late and it can get really ugly really quickly. So before you go into the studio, before you start playing shows, please have those conversations about splits and money, and then be open to conversation later.
Yeah. And I would say on our end as managers, like I used to not have contracts with my artists, like, we'll just see how it goes. I don't do that. Clarity feels so good. It feels so good to be clear because that's it. At the end of the day, as long as everybody understands that, like, I just don't let things like roll. I used to be like, we'll see. But I think clarity is important. And I think it's gotten even more now. Like, I think I can point at so many examples, but where something that happened 10 years ago, I just went and sang on this thing, but then it gets used in a commercial and things weren't just really talked about back then. So that artist that sang on that thing maybe isn't getting compensated because the label just said, we didn't work out you did it as a friend thing. I don't know, just like the clarity, all of that is important because stranger things have happened, I've been on the crazy train for so long, and you wake up and you're like, all of a sudden you got a crazy something that's happening, and if people start not feeling like that was theirs or that was this person's or whatever, it can get lost, and those conversations they're hard to have, but it feels really good to do it.
So we've got about 15 minutes left. I want to make sure we try to get to everyone's questions. So anyone else? Thoughts?
I don't know if there's a direct link from engineering to management, but I can just not speak on it too much, but the relationship between manager and tour manager is like, it's just like this, you know, the tour manager is your eyes and ears out on the road, you know. But yeah, the direct link from engineering to management, I mean, if it's just something you're interested in, I just say go for it, you know. I don't know if there's like a,
Wait, yeah, you're saying people that work with you are getting, so maybe you should be representing those people? Is that what the question is?
One thing I've seen a handful of times is crew members, mainly tour managers, just because the volume of responsibility they have, they can get the artist's trust, and then the artist can lean on them a little more and a little more, and tour managers can transition into management almost like into a day-to-day role, and sometimes stay the tour manager because you make yourself indispensable to the artist, and then the artist or the team or whatever has to figure out how to like keep you around. And so I think that's sort of good advice across the board. Like if you work somewhere, be nice, be respectful, like we were talking about, but be accountable, be reliable. And you know, at my company and my whole career, you know, we've had interns, and the interns who like go above and beyond and are pleasant to be around, those are the ones that I'll help recommend for jobs. Or when I hear about something, I'll tell them like, oh, these people are hiring, you should apply. And that's how a lot of this business works. It doesn't matter where your college degree is. It doesn't matter if you even went to college. Like, can you get the job done? Do people like you? And do you sort of share the vision with the artist or the team? And so whether it's engineer, monitors, guitar tech, whatever, like you can work your way up through an organization or into different jobs and find your way into management. I mean, it takes time, but if the artist likes you, that's the only thing that matters, because the manager may hate you, everyone else may hate you, but we all work for the artist. So get on the artist side, and you are of a leg up on everybody.
It's never bad to know how to do more shit. Like, the more utility you can offer, the better. And to Mark's point, you know, it'll help you potentially advance your career. It makes you more valuable to the team. And it's potentially a growth opportunity for you, right? Like you might discover that you prefer doing this over this, or you might be able to pick up more work in this area. So I would, especially as you all are like embarking on careers, explore stuff, like try different things. I think we tend to, or at least historically, there's been this like, I need to decide when I'm a kid what I want to be when I grow up, and then I have to be that thing. And like, I refused that path, and I felt like that was the right thing for me to do personally, because I'm much more fulfilled now than I would be if I was trying to be an industrial architect and I can't barely even draw. So like, try things and explore things, and you might fail, and that's okay. But you'll learn something in the process.
Well, I'd say I've worked with some bands that, you know, did all right or whatever, but the guitar player ended up, he was really good at merch, and he has this guy Justin from this band has a big merch company. Like, you kind of, you know, being on the road or being in the studio, or you can see things that you actually are inspired by or motivate you. I mean, so much of the time I feel like bands, there's like a guy that ends up being he's really good at tour managing or business management. They turn it just career, you know, just I think being on the road or being in a studio, just those things afford you these other ways in, or just other career type things, and you just got to do it by trying. And being accountable and being a good person.
What role does guerrilla marketing play in the manager's job?
And can you define guerrilla marketing just so we know what you're sort of looking at? Like street teams and posters and.
I've definitely dabbled in that before. You know, I've always kind of had a foot in both worlds just from when I got into the business, and again, working with baby bands. So I can definitely work with both, and I kind of like a mixture of both, because we're all so into social media now that I think when you do see something cool from a band, like stencils on the sidewalk for their show, or you just see postering, the old school stuff, but to me, it stands out because everyone's doing this and someone is still doing that, just kind of like, oh wow, okay, someone's still out here, and old rock and roll vibes. And any opportunities, yeah, I mean, opportunities pop up all the time from guerrilla stuff, honestly. I mean, I'm probably gonna go blank trying to describe something to you, but I've had bands just pop up and at a festival and like, hey, let's do a second show illegally. We're gonna hop up on this food truck. These guys said we can do it. Let's get an amp and just do stuff. And next thing you know, there's 500 people gathering around, and then just boost.
Those
this or
people were
whatever.
hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the tacos.
Yeah, sorry.
Gotcha, man.
They like tacos.
Yeah. But you can, I'm a fan of doing wild stuff like that, yeah. Get their attention.
Every band, every brand, everybody is trying to stick out, stand out, be noticed, right? So I think maybe what you're trying to describe is this is the status quo. So what do I do to stand out? And I think what you do to stand out is different than what everybody else is doing at any given moment, because it's going to change constantly. There's no real solid, straight answer of here's how you'll always stand out. Just maybe going against the trend is probably the easiest way to stand out, and that might feel like a risk because you feel like everybody's doing this thing, and if you're a joiner, you're like, oh shit, now I'm taking a risk. But if you're over here, you might have more opportunity to be seen.
Yeah, it doesn't go unnoticed for sure.
Record labels and us, there's only so many channels you can go down. Like there's the singer-songwriter, there's the Americana. Like you have to sort of claim your lane because the gatekeepers that still exist, the people who make the playlists at Spotify, like you have to say this is a rock band or this is a this, so they understand. You can't just expect someone to figure out like who you think the artist is. So you have to sort of define it in the beginning, but then the market determines really who it is. You might think your fans are gonna be 30-year-old women and they end up being 60-year-old men, and it's just the way it works. Like you said earlier, I can't control the universe.
You never
And
know what city you're gonna hit in.
yeah, you have
Be
no idea
surprised
what's
with
going to
it,
happen. So there's a lot of like, if you like this band and this band, then you're going to like this band. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I think also, at least I like to take this approach. I like to toy around with different technology and see what kind of fans gravitate to things. Some people, there's a tool I'm thinking of right now where you raise money monthly, they subscribe.
Patreon?
Patreon, yeah, that doesn't work for everyone, but for some it does because their fan base just reacts to, hey, I want to have a subscription, but these guys here, they might not do that, so you have to just try things and see what sticks sometimes,
That answer your question?
Some people
Guy
are
in the
on
hat?
Twitter, some aren't, it's that type of thing.
I sort of heard you asking about like, do you apply common business fundamentals to marketing and artist, which then makes me ask the question, do you all think of your artists as product? Like when you know what I mean? Because like that maybe is sort of the basis of the question.
I mean, kind of both, in my opinion, yeah. To me, they are human beings and they are friends and family, but sometimes you have to think of like that because you are marketing. I have to sell you all on it, you know what I mean? Their music is a product, their image, I hate to say that word, you're gonna make me feel bad now.
Yeah,
but,
no.
But
it
it's
is,
an
yeah.
important thing to know, right?
Yeah, for sure. You are trying to sell something, so sometimes you have to think of it like that, yeah.
I think it sounds like a dirty word to us, and I guess that's kind of why I'm asking the question, because at the end of the day, it is you are selling a product. You're trying to sell music. You're right, and so I think as artists too, it's important for us to maybe get comfortable with the fact that there's some discomfort in what we're doing is art, and what we really care about is this music that we're making. But we also want to be successful, and so in order to like. If you're really, 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 really lucky, 1 in 10 billion, yeah, you might hit without any of that stuff. But really, it does take a team. It takes business. It takes strategy. It takes all of these business principles in order to get you there, right? And so I think we have to figure out how to be kind of comfortable with the fact that knowing that while we are creating art, we are still operating in the ecosystem of business, right? So for all the artists in the room, I think I'm sort of pushing on that product thing because I think it's important to recognize that that is how you can actually get
It
somewhere.
is for sure. And if you're not scared, again, of being a product, for example, if you were to look at the whole entire year and look at how a company that you buy from markets to you, Target, Macy's, McDonald's, whatever it is, you're going to see a sale coupon. You're going to see a Black Friday sale. You're going to see all these different things throughout the year. They're going to wish you happy birthday and maybe give you a free meal, whatever it is. But looking at your fans like that, if you have direct communication with them through email, social media, use those things, like treat yourself like that. Like, hey, we're having a Valentine's Day sale. We're doing this, we're doing that. And just take them through that ride every single year, At least that's my approach here. Learn as much as you can about every aspect. And like you had said earlier, because when you do hire a manager, you want to know what they should be doing, and you want to be able to not necessarily oversee it, but, well, oversee it in a sense, but just know that they're getting the job done, they're doing it correctly because you've done it before, So that's bringing anyone onto your team. If you're bringing a publicist on, you've already pitched stuff, so you kind of know what goes into it, what to expect, If you're booking shows, you've done that before, so you know what this person should be doing,
And all those are it's all relationship building, right? Everything you're doing, if you're playing a show, you're meeting the promoter or the booker or the merch, whoever you're in touch with, those people hopefully become people that you can go back to and rely, and you have to create your community. I mean, that is most of it, like whatever space it is. If it's the biggest, if it's the internet is the community, or if it's your local community, like that's what I guess I would say in the guerrilla marketing way. Like I'm attracted to the people that find their community, and they almost don't, people need managers or whatever, but almost like you feel like, do they need someone? Because they're doing such a good job of like showing up for themselves, and that if there wasn't me, they would go back and sell the merch, or they would go and settle their shows, because they aren't afraid. They're like, we're good. You can help us, get better or something like that.
I just want to add one thing, and the word manager too, it's like sometimes we think of this person that has all the keys to the industry, and sometimes that is the case, but also it's just, like you say, it's just managing what this person has, because this artist is too busy now, so now I'm just actually going to really manage it, you know what I mean? It's not that I can knock on this label's door or get you this and that, and again, sometimes that does happen, but just helping this person manage their day-to-day workload, It's that simple, the term manager.
Mark, last word.
I'm shocked Michelle still sells merch at shows.
I do.
I'm impressed. That's great.
Yeah.
Selling merch is actually really fun.
It is fun because you meet everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody comes to the table, and I don't know. It is pretty fun because I like to see people's choices. When you're like, oh, so that shirt that I thought was good is like a stinker. Okay, I'm wrong. I'll take the L.
That's why the artist needs to come up with a vision. What was the question that I'm answering?
For emerging artists who are currently managing themselves, what tips do you have?
Do you to the person who asked, do you have like a fake name and a fake email, like, so you're like you have a fake manager who's managing you, but you do both?
Yes.
You don't do that?
I like this. This is a good plan.
What?
Your fake manager.
Yeah. Yeah, I represent this great new artist, like talking to the third person.
It's easier to talk about somebody in the third, when it's, because it is, not doing it yourself, like, it's me, it's hard to ask, right? It's hard to ask for things, but it's easier if it's for somebody else,
Yeah.
But would that come back and bite you maybe in the future if you do find success or you need to re-engage with this person? Like,
Nah.
should you?
I think it shows ingenuity, creativity,
Okay.
I think that you're exceptional if you do that.
If I could leave you all with one thing too, I would say use automation as much as you can, If I had known that 10 years ago, I would have, who knows where I'd be now. But I like it a lot, and it helps bands a lot. It saves you time.
Can you describe what you mean by automation? What are you automating?
Someone makes a sale, a purchase from you, send them a thank you, send them something else. But just having emails set up and different things on social media set up to do stuff automatically for you. Because like I say, former label owner, I can remember the days where I would go into email of every person that made a purchase and thank them, you know, and how many hours that would take. And, you know, there's a robot that can do that for me now. You know what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
But yeah, I mean, I'm still like, if somebody emails, I mean, I try to answer almost every info at like management. I'm curious, like who's reaching out and you know, if somebody, I don't know, I'm still really real curious, like,
No, the personal ones, I hear you for sure, yeah, definitely.
but
Those are, I feel like those are two different things. So you're talking about sort of the customer relationship building, and you're talking about like understanding the temperature of what's going on in the industry and who you're hearing from.
yeah,
And
just all sorts of random emails. But I tell everybody at the office, like, I read everybody back. I mean, I get photo pass requests. I get a lot. Like,
My favorite are the emails, like after your band has just done something huge and everyone has seen it, and then you get asked, oh, can they come play my 50-person venue for, you know,
free?
for a percent of the door? It's like,
Yeah.
did you not just see what happened last week?
but I like,
Yeah, no, I
I
hear
think
you.
I answer everybody because I want people, if
You educated them
if
as
they
well,
are
you know?
reaching out to me or the company and they're, I don't know, I think being seen, I like,
They deserve a response. Huh?
I think so.
Well, we will leave it there. Thank you so much to our managers.
Good job.